Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, hey, hopefully you're having a great day and you are ready for some Computer America. So today on the program, as soon as hopefully Scott Schober gets the message, but hey, we're going to have Scott Schober. He is our resident cybersecurity expert, and we are going to be covering everything about viruses. Not that one, although probably that one as well, because that seems to be the only thing that people are talking about is, well, not just the virus, but the implications to our digital society as a byproduct of it. And that digital society includes, well, how to stay safe in a day and age where everyone's working remote and everyone has to now deal with, what it means to now be a remote worker, how to stay safe, how to make sure that you don't welcome unwelcome things into your networks. So joining us today will be, again, Scott Schober. He'll be joining us here in just a moment. With that being said, everyone, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including today's show notes. You'll find everything that's you'll find everything that you can hear on Computer America, past shows, future shows. We still have to put a few up. I know that we're a little behind. We have about 3 shows that we need to put up, including our 4 after this one. But those will be up on the website. They'll be out on the podcast here later this afternoon. And hey, we're just gonna have fun with it. So everyone, with that being said, again, hopefully everything is going well in your world. Just waiting for Scott Schober, and I unfortunately had to leave him in a different Zoom meeting. So yeah, that might have been it. So let's see. So I think I did it this way. So everyone, we'll get Scott Schober on here in just a moment. And actually, in just a moment actually means right now. I see that he's here. Everything should be, starting up.
We'll get Scott
and
Schober on
hey,
here
Scott, how you doing? Welcome on to Computer America. And I could definitely hear myself as well in the background. So yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing good here.
I'm glad that you were able to tune in. Thank you for listening.
No problem.
So with that being said, I introduced you a bit, but you are the resident cybersecurity expert here of Computer America, and I got to ask you. It's been a little while since you've been on, and the world has gone completely crazy. How are you holding up in these troubling times?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking there, Ben. Really appreciate it. Hopefully you and your family are all doing good, and the listeners are doing good getting through this terrible virus, which I think has got us all kind of going in a tailspin.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you heard my little intro there, but it's not just a tailspin, but I think that hopefully companies out there are adapting as best that they can. They are, the really agile companies. I know that I think it was Samsung in particular, or no, I'm sorry, it was Sony. Sony in particular gave their workers $1,000 credit to essentially buy equipment to work from home. So, obviously they could have tried to order thousands of computers for their thousands of office workers, but instead they're telling everyone, go out, buy your own webcam, buy your own laptop or computer, make sure that you have the best internet connection you can get, so on and so forth. And the really agile companies are, the ones that are able to are having employees work from home for the first time. Like this was like, it was kind of like an underpinning of, kind of business as usual, but this virus seems to have kicked everything into high gear and just given every company every reason to just say, all right, you're all remote workers. Let's see how this goes, because that was their only option. And it's been interesting.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends, a lot of business colleagues, and it seems like overnight, many of them had to become instant remote workers. Others have no ability to do that, and some, if they're tied in with some of the critical infrastructure or other things that they're trying to support, they have to go to work. So it is definitely a mixed bag for everyone. We here at Berkeley, I mean, we're primarily an engineering company, just shy of 30 people, and what we're supporting a lot of contracts that do support critical infrastructure for, again, the rail, for DoD, a lot of different projects. So we have to work, which is good and it's bad. It's good from a commuting standpoint because there's no traffic getting into work and everybody's thrilled with that. But I'm rotating employees so we don't have too many people in the building at any one point. So I do half staff today, another half staff tomorrow. We rotate that, which is extremely inefficient. But you got to do what you got to do to keep that social distancing and keep safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I didn't ask you this before the show because people don't know this, but behind the scenes, I had to restart pretty much everything in like 2 minutes. But I didn't have a chance to ask you. Did you want your video to be up on the video portion? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
All
That's
right,
certainly
perfect.
fine.
So
Yeah, whatever you want to do, you're in control. So
sure. Yeah, we'll put that up there right there.
absolutely, that'd be
So
great.
everyone
Appreciate
cannot
it.
see you. Everyone, we encourage you to go check out the video portion. Not necessary, not mandatory, but hey, we're going to be poking around some of these topics. Some of them are going to be very helpful visually, and hey, you get to see our beaming faces. So with that being said, I'm glad that you're adapting as best that you can. I would say the biggest hitch here for Compute America when it comes to the virus is because, we have our own studio and we do everything that we do. I'm already very socially, emotionally distant from pretty much everyone in my life. So I got to say that part wasn't that hard. The problem is that companies aren't really doing that much anymore. I went through my email. I had about 600 email. And I typed in, I deleted everything with COVID-19, virus, and coronavirus, and about 80% of my emails went away. It's just I feel like people get their trusted coronavirus news from certain sources that they trust, and then otherwise they don't really want to hear about it. So, we're not going to do coronavirus updates or anything like that with you here, Scott. But what we
All
are going
right.
to do is something that is tangentially related, I guess, if that's a word, which is, as I said, a lot of remote workers and what it means to be, kind of security conscious. And it's a bit harder because I'm sure that a lot of people out there who work in the corporate world know whenever they get an email from someone outside the network, there's a big flashing thing at the bottom that says, this email originated from outside the network. Be careful of links and stuff like that. That's going to start happening with everyone's emails, not just what IT kind of deems it. So there's a lot to keep in mind here, and it looks like you've been, kind of working and talking about this with a lot of people. Cybersecurity Ventures is a publication we've talked about. You write for them, and of course, you've interviewed the CEO and things like that. It's always great to see that you continue to work with them. Here's one of the articles, and I wanted to, kind of kick off this interview with, again, COVID-19 and being a remote worker and what people should start to, kind of keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely, and I do think I have a wonderful relationship with the team over there at Cybersecurity Ventures, Cybercrime Magazine. I'm honored they actually have me now as their chief security officer.
Hey,
In
they're in good
addition,
company.
so I'm providing them some advice and helping them secure their networks and their company as they work more and more with larger enterprise customers. They really have to obviously watch their back and make sure they're not targeted as I have been in the past there. But it was an interesting interview that I had with them recently, specifically talking about all these fears about the virus, but more importantly, I guess, just to your point about remote workers and some of the things that people really need to be concerned about. And I think in all the topics that I was kind of proposing today, they all have that common thread. People, cyber criminals taking advantage of the innocence of people, the distraction of people when our guard is down. Maybe our emotional state is a little bit disturbed when we're stressed out. Maybe our pocketbook or our wallet because of all the money's going out and maybe money's not coming in. Perhaps
Hmm.
those type of things make it very, very difficult for us. So it can be challenging.
And of course, not too long ago, I know that you saw the tweet as well, and went out there. Hey, follow us on social media, Computer America and Scott Schober. But you saw the tweet that there's this idea being floated around of a stimulus check. I think that it's official, and people who file for unemployment are going to get some money. And I think unemployment shot up to like 10 million new claims in the past like month or two. Uh, Talk about emotional well-being. That is not good for people's emotional well-being. And again, the tweet concerned how people will be contacting you. And in this day and age of technology, I think that when people spend all day talking to their friends, family, coworkers, social network, through social media or through email, they think, oh, the U.S. government is trying to reach me via email. They're trying to send me a check through Facebook because it's so
Mhm.
convenient. That probably won't be the case, right? Like hackers aren't just trying the same old tricks; they're really flavoring it with the events of today.
Yeah, you are 100% right. And I think that's why they're so successful. Hackers will closely look at whatever is going on, and then they will try to then kind of tailor their attacks, their social engineering techniques, their phishing scams, and that way they look very credible. I continually keep getting um, phishing attacks
Hmm.
day in, day out, and it's increased probably tenfold just in the past 2 weeks. That's the part that amazes me. And most of them, to your point, they're all tied to COVID 19 and download the latest form, apply for this grant, get money quickly to save your business. And it makes people say, wow, I need that. They don't do the research. And that's the advantage that hackers have. They have time on their hands and their pool of targets now is huge, so they can deploy these scams pretty much overnight. There's not that much time it takes to get up to speed, and we all become victims. Our inboxes, as you mentioned, you said you get X number of emails. If you delete all the ones that are tied to coronavirus or COVID-19, there's not a whole lot of email going on,
No.
normal traffic. It's kind of scary. So we got to take the time, the emails that we're about to read or actually click on or download anything. That's where you got to stop and pause and sort through them and say, is this really essential? Is this legitimate? Where did this email come from? And do your investigation. Look at the header information. Look at the raw packets. What's the origin of the email? Were you expecting it? So on and so forth before we're tempted to click. Because that again, that's always our big mistake.
Yeah, and really, this goes back to as long as these major security breaches. One of the topics that you didn't bring up, I think it just happened like 2 days ago. I know that we covered it with computer, or we were going to with computer and technology news, but I want to say it was Marriott hotels were hacked again. And when I say again, I know that people are very aware of they anyone who stayed with Marriott. I think that not the payment information, I want to say, kind of safely, but contact information, first name, last name, email address, that kind of thing. That stuff was stolen. And then 2 days ago, it was first reported that, another 5 million
Mhm.
guests were their information was compromised through Marriott. So they use that kind of information, and then hey, they may have gotten your email through Marriott, but they could say, "Oh, dear Marriott member, and here's your Marriott number ID, whatever. We want to refund you for the troubles with COVID," and then they'll things like that. You think that those are kind of easy to detect? What would you say is I don't want to say there's like a silver bullet, but is it being credulous? Is it ask questions? Is it verifying that the email address is really .com and not .com.co? Um, how do you spot these things that are just getting more and more complex?
I think that's part of the challenge. I think you make a fabulous point. The way that they typically are going to do something, for example, the Marriott breach, if we think about that, they're going to do exactly what you said. They're going to have this huge database of 5+ million, email addresses. They don't really care about the person per se. They care about the few that are gullible enough to actually click on it. And maybe they do something enticing. During this terrible time, we're giving a 25% discount to our loyal Marriott customers. And they create a nice campaign that people want to click on. I know my wife, She loves coupons. She loves discounts. She follows them closely. And I have to always constantly tell her, I said, be careful. Don't click on that. Don't download it. Use caution. She's read my book. She hears me preach about the importance of cybersecurity and phishing attacks. But again, it can be so tempting when the deal looks really attractive or too good to be true. Often it's too good to be true. So I think just putting the caution out there to stop, especially when you make the correlation to a recent breach. That's what's important. I don't think a lot of people out there are that familiar, nor do they care that much about the Marriott breach if they were in that 5 million people, because they've heard the headlines before again and again, and they kind of roll their eyes and say, well, whatever, what's going to happen? It is what it
I think you're
is,
right.
blah, blah, blah. That's the problem. Complacency sets in, and we can't let complacency overtake common sense best practices for cybersecurity.
Complacency, and of course a feeling of, well, I think not hopelessness. I think that Americans are full of hope in these trying times.
Yes.
But more
What can I
of,
do about it? Maybe.
yeah, what is there to do other than just change your password? Although here in the interview here, it's a full blown, kind of a little segment, 23-minute interview, or yeah, 23-minute interview. But you say here that two-factor authentication, which is something that we've mentioned here and there, and here's something I want to ask you, because I know that the big ones, I know that Facebook, that Gmail, that a lot of the much bigger names that people would know do two-factor authentication, a lot of banking applications. Is there a way to do kind of like a blanket two-factor authentic? Like, is there a way for me as a person to add two-factor authentication to services that don't currently offer it? And
That's a
I
good
don't know if there's a
question.
way.
I don't think there is, because of the nuances tied so closely to each platform. But for the point that you mentioned there, if you do look at all of the big providers for email, everybody's offering two-factor authentication. All the banks, all the stuff I do with stock market, everything I do with 401k, anything and everything to do with financial offers two-factor authentication. I have not seen in any cases where it adds cost to the user, where they're paying for it. Really, all it does is add a little bit more time and hence a little bit more complexity, perhaps. However, it probably increases the security tenfold. And that's why I encourage people so much. Yeah, it's important, protect your login credentials and make a long, strong password. We know that. I mean, we hear it all the time. We all talk about it. Still, a percentage of people will just never do it, and they're going to be the victims. However, those that are savvy, those that listen and do want to protect their personal information and their financial information, take that extra step to implement two-factor authentication. I've been encouraging with business colleagues, with friends, with relatives. And you know what? I find everybody gives me resistance at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then come full circle, weeks later or months later, they say, Scott, it's really not that bad. I'm kind of used to it. It's like setting an alarm when we go out of our house, or now we have cameras in the house that monitor everything. You get used to it.
Yeah.
But we have to get to that point, I think, where we're pounding it into people's heads and tell them you're going to be 10 times safer if you properly implement two-factor authentication. Done.
Yeah, it's and really, I have definitely felt the same way. It does get a little annoying when you use your phone as your two-factor and you leave your phone in the other room. It's a
Exactly.
little bit of a pain, but also seeing maybe one of those errant random codes sent to your phone because someone tried to get into your account and they sent the code and they don't have the authentication code. It makes you feel a lot better knowing that someone has tried and failed, and
Yes.
you need to worry about that. And I gotta say that this idea of people trying your accounts, this is not a cybersecurity tip that I think you would ever recommend, because Yahoo being Yahoo. I gotta say though that I have someone in my life who still uses on a regular basis their Yahoo email account, and I think it's just because Yahoo has been compromised so many times. And it's tied to like their Netflix, their PayPal, their any account that any average consumer would have. It's tied to all of those, and all of those are constantly being locked, suspended. They're being said, hey, there's a compromise here that might have happened. I think just the fact that it's like a Yahoo email, she is so much more at risk for what's happening. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it is. And if you look at some of the targeted attacks, which I find interesting, again, not to dwell on the virus again, but cyber criminals trying to exploit this. The other week, the big one was going around was Netflix, that you can get Netflix for free. And a lot of times, those cyber criminals that are compromising these large databases, or they maintain these large databases of compromised emails that have, millions of users of Yahoo or Gmail or so on and so forth. They're using those to launch these phishing attacks that say, hey, click here to get your free 30 days of Netflix streaming, so on and so forth. So many of these users are part of that are being targeted. So you got to use extra caution if you're using a Gmail or a Yahoo account. I don't want to say that they're useless and never use them. There's a place and a time for each account. I just wouldn't consider using those accounts for anything that is sensitive. Because again, what are you trading? You're getting it for free.
Mm-hmm.
What are you giving up? Privacy? Are they taking, scanning for metadata and content and selling that to others? Absolutely. Unequivocally, I know they are. And people will argue, no, 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 no. Well, guess what they are. So we got to realize what that trade-off is. So don't send passwords. Don't send cell phone numbers. Don't send your social security number. Don't send tax documents. Those type of things you really, really don't want to do unless you know it's secure and encrypted. Otherwise, you can be a victim.
So, and at the end of this whole article here, they call attention to something that you can find in your book, in the back of your book, which is of course the cybersecurity pop quiz. You kind of mentioned that they liked it so much that they decided to co-opt it from you. And I thought it would be a great way to, kind of talk about some of these ways that people can stay safe, because we mentioned being a new remote worker can lead to a lot of headaches, and these are some basics that that people should know about. So I was wondering if you think we should go kind of question by question and then do a quick synopsis, and then we'll move on with the rest there.
Oh, totally up to you. Whatever you want to talk about. The other area is I think that's really been hot, and I've got dozens of people reaching out to me is about Zoom, and that's, that's another area.
Yeah, we'll definitely cover Zoom. And by the way,
Okay,
anyone
great.
out there listening, do not drop in on our Zoom call that we're doing right now. That'd be very unfortunate. So of course you can see here, and of course we're going to include links in the show notes to this if you'd like to show it to anyone else. But yeah, we're going to cover it here on today's show. And of course, the introduction, you wrote this for for your book, Cybersecurity is Everybody's Business. And yeah, so let's just kind of go one by one, and the answer keys are way at the end, but hey, I got the person who wrote the question, so that's better than any answer key. I'm going to do my best attempt at this. I like to think I'm pretty savvy, but hey, I can be wrong as well. For everyone out there who cannot follow along with the video, hey, we're going to say it all anyways. So, question number 1, what is the simplest way to stop a brute force cyber attack dead in their tracks, or brute force cyber attacks dead in their tracks? And real quick, Scott, brute force cyber attack, what is that?
Sure. A brute force cyber attack is where they're trying to guess your login credentials, your password, basically. In other words, if your password is, let's just say password 1234, there's automated tools that will constantly try all the combinations until they can guess it quickly. Some of the more modern brute force attacks can actually guess close to 1 million passwords per second. Ludicrously fast speed. And again, these are fast computers designed to just do that, to hack into guess passwords. So what does that again tell us, which is really the most important thing about passwords, to make sure that they're really long. The longer the password, the stronger that it gets.
Exactly. And of course, not just length, but also complexity, because it could be 1 through 0 on your keyboard. Yeah. Hey, it's 10
well
characters.
Said, yeah.
It's long, but not very complex. So to your point, of all the questions here on the screen, the correct answer would be, hey, C, add a few unique characters to a password or PIN number. And, through all the years, we've heard a lot of different things that people can do to kind of complex their password up a bit. Some of them include, just whatever your usual password would be. Simply move one key over to the left and hit that one instead. So if it was, 22222, you go, well, I wouldn't recommend 1111, but hey, just little things like that, that you can easily remember. But of course, it would take that algorithm you were talking about, a million passwords a second. Hey, if it's never been seen before, the computer can't compare it to the existing password. So complex, long, and hey, hopefully unique if you can. So that's question number one. Question number two, what's the quickest way to stop a suspected app, device, or OS from spying on you? And this is an interesting question. So the quickest way to stop a suspected app, device, or OS, I guess this would come into play for, right off the bat, smartphones or unwanted programs running in the background of your computer.
Yes, exactly. The smartphones is the primary area that's going to be on.
Right. So let's see. So A, Google user reports of that device's spying activity and what those people did to stop it. So Google would be, of course, to search, B, log out of the suspected device or account and go about your day, which is hide under the blanket, stick your head in the sand, forget about it. Or C, visit Consumer Affairs or the Federal Trade Commission's website for tips. Man, I would say that, honestly, I'm usually pretty good at this. A and B are, first one is just look for more information, and the second, A and C. C, though, I don't really put too much value into, I feel like Consumer Affairs and Federal Trade Commission, I'm sure they have good tips. I just don't think of them as very timely tips. So maybe even A.
A bit dated typically. So yes.
So what's the answer? I would say A.
What do you think?
I would say A. I think Google user reports of the device.
Sorry. Yes. I think you are good. I hope you're good. I have to look back at it and see, but I believe that's what I would choose.
I have it open here. Let's see. There's the answer key at the end, and I would never do this in school, but I always start with the answer key.
No cheating. Let me look here. I'll pull it up. I'm gonna grab the book here too.
No, actually, I was wrong. B is actually the correct one. Log out of the suspected device or account and go about your day. So that's the quickest way to, kind of not get spied on, which I guess works if you weren't actually using the account.
It works. I guess that's one of those. It could be an A or B. It depends on the angle that you're taking or.
Oh, well, and again, I'm not saying like log out of the suspected device and go about your day, which is to say that doesn't exactly solve the problem, but it solves it immediately. Like it stops the flow data immediately.
Here and now it does that, and that's probably why it's a better answer.
Right. So that's number two. Number three, and don't worry, folks, we're going to get through these pretty quickly. But number three, what is the weakest link in cybersecurity? And man, I really wish you put, a D and all the above in these. What is the weakest link? Weak encryption, humans, or short passwords, which, hey, we've seen weak encryption.
I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a big hint. If anybody knows the theme of the recent RSA show, which is the biggest cybersecurity conference that was held in San Francisco,
right?
In San Francisco, end of February, and they had it across all the banners. And it said the human element, if that gives you a hint.
Yeah, so I would guess B, humans, indeed. And I guess really, to kind of put my own little flavor on this, which is something that we talk about all the time. Hackers aren't necessarily, like in Hollywood, pounding on keyboards in basements and, lit by the fluorescent monitors. No, they're just kind of tricking people into giving them the password.
So really all those answers in a sense work, but the weakest, at least in my opinion, is certainly humans.
Absolutely. And actually I just heard a funny story. I should probably find it here, but there was a story back in a couple of decades ago, and I think it's true, where the FBI some people broke into the FBI where they weren't supposed to steal some files and destroy some documents. And the way that they did it was they stuck a sticky note onto the door of the FBI and said, "Do not lock this door." And the cleaning crew, the staff, no one locked that particular door because
Wow.
the sticky note said it, and they were able to just walk in and destroy
Walk
the
right in.
documents.
Oh, that's a pretty cool story. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
and I'll definitely have to find you a source for that. But yeah, it just goes to show that kind of human manipulation or kind of human engineering is one of the easiest ways to definitely do that. So there we go. Humans, they are the weakest. It's okay. We're also the strongest because we can stick to the rules. 4, what is the first thing you should do if your company is facing a ransomware demand? And I'm sure that a lot of people, their first response is, we got to pay this, we got to get back up and going. But the 3 answers here: determine if the ransomware demand is legitimate and follow the instructions to get your data back. That would be a lot of people's, I guess, kind of the only thing that comes to their mind at first.
Hmm.
B, ignoring. Ignore the demands, but back up all the data just in case. And C, contact the police and do not pay the ransom. Uh, in my mind, of course, backup should already be there, and hopefully,
Hmm.
you've actually mentioned this. Sometimes the backups can actually get corrupt as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, that's a huge problem. Many people will buy a remote hard drive or plug a hard drive right in there, and they'll have it backing up, streaming right to the hard drive, and they'll leave it plugged in or connected to the network. And guess what? Cyber criminals know this, and they'll corrupt both your backup data that's being streamed to that hard drive as well as your main drive, and you'll carry that home or lock it in a safe, and then you go to plug it back in and think, I got them, I got the backup here.
Hmm.
You'll wipe the system, you'll reinstall, and guess what? It's still there, and your data's still locked, and you're in trouble. So yeah, backup, to your point, do it ahead of time, do it regularly. If you wash your car once a month, back your data up once a month. Make it part of you brush your teeth every day. Hopefully, that's a schedule. Think of backups like that. It's something that's crucial from the standpoint of maintenance. It has to be done. It's not even a choice. Then it makes it a little bit less painful because it is kind of a pain to back up data. It's not real
Yeah,
exciting.
full blown initial backups can definitely be a pain. There are incremental ones that are
Yeah.
much quicker and like you said, kind of automated. And hopefully people have those. But of this answer, not just, well, I am checking the answers, but contact the police. Do not pay the ransom. Here's my question to you though. With that, and don't get me wrong. Whenever ransomware happens, it is a crime, and calling the
Yes.
police for a crime makes all the sense in the world. My question to you, and because you deal with a lot of government agencies and you have been dealing in this space, um, are police, I guess, kind of, I don't want to say capable because, of course, they would be, but are they responsive to an issue like a cybercrime?
Yes, they would be responsive. Are they the guys that are going to come in and actually solve it? No. But what's important to make sure it's documented and recorded. And what will probably happen is they'll recommend the next question they'll have, and then they'll make a recommendation is, do you have cybersecurity insurance? If your answer then is yes, then they're going to say, excellent. Call your cybersecurity
Excellent, we're
insurance
done here.
provider. Yeah, we're done here, and they'll make a record of it because they're going to want a copy that it was recorded with the police. But the more important thing is then the cybersecurity insurance provider can then actually look at your computer and then instruct you step by step, or if they're not even there with you, they could tell you, here's what you got to do: step 2, step 3, step 4. And oftentimes they'll then take over. They may already have the keys to decrypt that strain of ransomware in
Hmm.
their arsenal because they have hundreds of other customers that were already hit, and maybe they already bought it and now they're using it to unlock machines, and they can unlock yours and you're back in business. Or they may step in and say, hey, we're going to negotiate this to save some bucks, and they'll reduce the demand, which is $1,000 down to $100, and pay it in Bitcoin, and they already have a reserve of Bitcoin, so on and so forth. So don't do it yourself. Basically, if you're a company, call your insurance provider and get some assistance there.
Right. And I'm trying to think, and you might know this. This happened a couple of weeks ago, I think. There was no, 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 no. It happened like a week ago. It happened where, much with the COVID-19 and that kind of thing, uh, someone got people to click like a charity link or something like that, and it was breaking people's phones,
Mm.
saying that, hey, pay this ransom in like $100 in Bitcoin, or we're going to lock your phone. And they actually track the guy down, and he's somewhere in like Senegal or something like that. He actually runs like one of the largest spam rings out there because it was registered to his name. Anyways, they did all this kind of thing, and they were able to find kind of like the unlock key. Because of the version that he used, it was already publicly known, and he really didn't change anything on the back end. So I guess just letting people know might save headache down the road as well. So
Well, absolutely.
I really wish I remember the details of that, but yeah. So that was 4. Number 5, which one of these? And by the way, I got to say, these questions, it's not just like what color is the sky? Blue, banana, elephant. You all these could be the correct one, but of course some of them are more correct than others. So
Yeah, I
good job.
tried to do it and make you, when I'd read the chapter, create the questions, and then said, what's going to make people think maybe a little bit deeper and almost question the question a little bit and question the answer and say, which is the best of these
Yeah,
answers? And in some cases, you're right. All 3 may be correct answers, but depending upon the circumstances. But for the most part, there's going to be one that shines and stands out there a little better, I hope.
for sure. So 5, which one of these things will a comprehensive cyber insurance not protect you from, which you were just talking about? What would they not protect you from? A, poor cybersecurity hygiene and implementation. B, a ransomware attack on your company's computer network. And C, an employee skimming, stealing customer credit cards. I gotta say, B would be the exact reason why you have cybersecurity insurance. And C, that is a form of, that is a form of cybercrime. Skimming credit cards and stuff like that is horrible and a form of, kind of hacking. So I got to go with A. It's not the insurance company's fault that you have every employee type their password and stick it to a sticky note underneath the keyboard. And they're probably going to tell you, well, we can't insure against stupid. So
Yeah, exactly. And I think one nice thing for anybody that's considering cybersecurity insurance, keeping that in mind, that poor cybersecurity hygiene and implementation, if you're one of those people, make sure that you get some expertise and tips what they require, so that if you are breached, that you are really living up to their expectations as far as keeping your information secure and safe. Otherwise, they're not going to pay your claim out. So it's important that you do your job as a business owner to make things as secure as possible. And oftentimes they will bring an expert in to educate you. They'll have documentation that will educate you, videos that will educate you. Very important.
absolutely. So, moving along here, number 6, which is I'm surprised that you didn't go with the number 1 most used password out there, which is no. There's always that list of top 10. It's like football 1, baseball 1. The number 1 might be like QWERTY, QWERTY 123. But anyways, example here, monkey 123. What's the best way to secure a weak password, such as monkey 123? And yeah, some of them are pretty obvious. We talked about some of the ways that you can kind of beef up your security, which is, here add an uppercase, numeral, special character like that, which would, make it a little bit, take the algorithm a little bit longer to crack your password. B, don't reuse it anywhere else or share it with anyone, which, by the way, if your password was never caught up in any of the hacks out there, then it's going to take a long, long time for them to exhaust all those lists out there. And yeah, it would take longer for your password to be hacked. Or C, 2-factor authentication. Since we started off this whole thing by saying 2-factor is the best way to secure your password, we're going to go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just give you a short backstory. Instead of password 123 there, monkey 123, because my co-author, my brother Craig, his dog's name was Monkey.
There
And
you go. So a little personal flavor.
He used that as one of his passwords, but that's another story.
Well, hey, now you know exactly what to try on Scott's Brothers. There. So that's number 6, number 7, and we'll go ahead and start flying through these. When using a VPN and virtual private network, what's the one thing that you cannot hide from ISPs, hackers, and the government? And you say here, well, your identity, your data, which is kind of what a VPN kind of does. But A, the fact that you're using a VPN, why would, let's say the government, or why would the FBI, or, why would any other organization, why would they find that you are using a VPN of interest?
I guess it really depends on what type of business that you're in, but it might clue them in, especially if they're going after specific cyber criminals or organized crime, that you're trying to do certain things that are very unscrupulous, and that may clue them in right away. Um, Tough to tell, but it may be a good tell for
Yeah.
them because they use a lot of different tricks. Oftentimes, they're focusing on things that are going on in the world of social media, and that may clue them in on something, and then they have a reason to be suspicious about something, and then the next step they'll delve in, and if they're trying to find out if you're protecting or hiding something, that may clue them in on something else. It varies greatly, but there are some very interesting tricks that law enforcement, and especially FBI, uses to hone in on people. And sometimes I think it's what I would call more common sense that I would never even think of. Some of the specific things that I was educated on, because I sat in a series where they did the top 10 hacks where a senior FBI agent came in and shared how they actually caught the cyber criminals. I can't I can't repeat any of them or I'll be in trouble, but
Hmm.
most of them were very common sense things. I could say that. And I sat there and scratched my head. I said, wow, I just wouldn't have thought of that. I'm thinking the technical angle and digging in here and looking at the network. And they're like, no, stupid. It's not that complex. It's not that techy. It's the obvious ways. That's how we catch people.
Yeah.
And they make mistakes. So that's why I'm hesitating a little. I don't want to repeat
Well,
any of
and
them.
one case that I can talk about because I think that we even talked about with you, which is actually, if I can say this right, Guccifer 2.0, and that was with the DNC, the hacking, the whole thing with the election hacking in 2016.
Yes.
Not gonna rehash that, but one of the ways that the FBI were able to catch him was that he had a VPN, but he forgot to turn it on uh really all the time. Like it only
Yeah.
works if it's on, and sometimes he would access things with it off, with it on, back and forth, and they're able to say this person without the VPN is the same person even with this VPN on. So,
Yeah. It would allow them to make a corollary there. And I think there's a good example of somebody that made an innocent mistake, but they chose convenience over security in a couple instances, which got them
yeah.
in big trouble.
Oh yeah, and rightfully so. So
Yeah, exactly.
VPNs, and of course they, and we're not going to talk about the fact that some VPNs are better than others, but there you go. Number 7, when using a VPN, what's one thing that you can? Wait, no, we
Yep, we
just did
hit
that one.
that one. It was
Yeah,
A. Yep.
number 8. Yeah, A. So number 8, the best way to minimize your digital footprint, and digital footprint would be really just anything from your photos, your information, your data, your address, things like that. Take fewer photos with your smartphone, travel less with your smartphone, post less on social media. See, this is another one where all of these are technically correct. But I guess number A and number B, which is, take fewer photos and travel less with your smartphone, that's something that people as humans are just not going to do. They're going to keep traveling. Well, not with COVID, but when they can, they're going to keep traveling and they're still going to take photos of their lives. But I guess C is totally optional and something that you can affect.
Yeah, you got it. You would be good on an SAT test. You're good at working out this one, or this one, or
I
what's
wish I was, but my SAT scores are nothing to write home about. So
uh,
there you go. I think I scored like an 1100 out of 1600. So
okay.
not the best, not the best,
Yeah,
not. But hey, got me into college. So
there you
as
go.
as number 8, number 9, what is most valuable to companies looking to sell you something? And you have here, of course, again, another one of these things that all these could be true. Your phone number, your email address, your physical address. And I got to say that, you know, hey, being able to contact you in any way, be it physical mail, email, or a text message, all those are going to be very, very valuable for people trying to reach you. But I'll let you answer. So,
Well,
which is
I
it?
would answer and argue this way. Um, your email, you could somewhat confuse its origin and your whereabouts if they're trying to target you and sell you something and associate to you, your demographics, your likes, so on and so forth. It's a little
Hmm.
tricky. Your physical address, yes, certainly, but your phone number is something that you keep near and dear to you. In other words, your smartphone's on your body, on your person all the time. We live by them. There are our alarm clock, there are our calendar, there are what we connect in for video conferencing. We can email, we can do everything with our phone. We can bank with it. So if they're going to try to target you, more and more people statistically are now using their smartphone for purchasing, Amazon, and all this other stuff. So I would say A
There we go.
would be the standout for me.
Yeah, and not to mention that I think people have been receiving spam in their mailbox since for 100 years.
Yeah.
People have been getting spam in their emails, and there's an entire tab dedicated to spam, which would probably catch it anyways. So yeah, your phone. That's although I'm not sure if you've been keeping up to date, but I think 2021 they're expecting the phone companies to finally roll out Stir Shaken and
Yes.
hopefully be able to verify, like not stop the calls, but at least verify that they're coming from non-spoofed numbers.
Yeah, and it's already started too. I notice on my smartphone, on my desk phone, even at home, it will come up and it'll say spam with a question mark on it or some other things now.
Mm,
So they're starting to uh, implement the technology, the carriers, because they know they're in big trouble if they don't. And the FCC really pushed down on them, so they had
yeah.
to do something.
Yep. So that's yeah. So that is potentially something that is going to happen. Now, of course, this relates to what we were just talking about. What's the best way to deal with those pesky robocalls?
Hmm.
Asked to speak to their supervisor, which, by the way, chasing up the ladder in a call center.
Have fun with that.
If they don't hang up or yell expletives at you immediately, yeah, they're just going to keep you on the phone until they find out some way to get your money out of you. Use a carrier-approved smartphone app, and C, register your phone number to the Do Not Call list. The Do Not Call list, oh my God, what a joke.
Yeah.
I almost feel like being on that list, if that list were ever compromised, that would be the largest irony because it doesn't really stop anything. And if it somehow got me more calls, I would find that poetic justice. But
Yeah, I think it
talk
does
about
actually.
yeah, potentially. So talk about a carrier-approved smartphone app. I'm actually pretty unfamiliar with these. What do you mean by these?
A carrier approved smartphone app is something that if you have AT&T service or Verizon service, it actually is the implementation of a database of known um, robocallers, as well as implementation of the stir shaken technology, where they're actually maintaining and identifying bogus robocallers so it doesn't get pushed through. In the beginning, carriers were actually selling, which I find very sleazy and offensive, um, apps that you had to pay an extra couple dollars as a customer that you put on your smartphone to prevent the robocallers.
You
Um,
know why you find it sleazy? Because it's the same line of reasoning as Equifax losing all of your data
yes.
and then charging you services to protect your credit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great analogy. And then on top of it, I won't go into details, but the fact when I learned in my research on robocallers that the robocaller companies, again, mostly overseas, that these are dispatched, are selling back bulk the information as to who's a legitimate caller, who answers, who doesn't statistically, and they're getting paid for some of those statistics that they're feeding back to
That's
the
interesting.
wireless carriers. I thought that was really disgusting. So, in a sense, um, the wireless carriers are paying robocallers for making robocalls, and we're paying for apps to prevent it from happening. So, either way, the consumer is paying every which way, which is very disturbing to me.
Yeah, and really that's interesting to the point that they're almost like a market
Yeah.
research firm, and
Hmm.
except it's for other robocalling services. So
Yeah.
the better that their list can come, of course. You can only steal your grandparents' credit card so many times before Hey, hopefully someone steps in, but yeah, don't like any of that. So, number 10, and boy, we were quickly running out of time. Let's see if we can get to all 25 of these. And at this point, I have the answer key on a separate screen, and we're just going to talk about the correct
Let's
one
see
really
how
quick.
good you do. We'll go through 11 through 24.
All right, so which organization is the most vulnerable to hacking? And you have charitable organizations with weak cybersecurity, black market websites with strong cybersecurity in your business, and yeah, which are most vulnerable to hacking. And yeah, I gotta say, charitable organizations with weak cybersecurity, unfortunately,
Ding, ding, ding. Yes.
yeah, I can see how they accept donations, they accept information from so many different people. They have, they're all charity. Most of them are volunteer services. Yeah,
Yep.
I can see how they aren't set up like a traditional corporation and they could be vulnerable. So
Yeah. Very true.
so there you go. And hopefully not your business because you have implemented some of these, some of these things. So 12, when is it okay to reuse a password? Always is not on there. So you have, when you're logging into social media accounts. So I'm assuming you mean like Facebook and Twitter have the same
Yep.
password. When it's hard to remember a long password, which is why people use monkey123 as opposed to a long secure password, or C, never. And hey, reuse passwords. You and I, Scott, have talked about the value of password management software and applications. If you don't want to come up with one, there are ways to come up with or have your system come up with these long, complex passwords. So hopefully never reuse a password because, and actually just to put, an emphasis on this, Scott, wasn't that how the whole Apple, iTunes, iCloud, kind of thing happened? Was that celebrities were using the same passwords across multiple services and they were able to get an iCloud user's password and email, and then hackers just tried it everywhere. And that's how a lot of these, kind of Apple cloud hacks happened.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And to add to that, the other thing that was not done, and the caution flags go up in every single one of those cases, out of all the celebrities that were compromised, so on and so forth, not one of them had two-factor authentication
Right.
turned on, which is a
Yeah.
no-no. So and so it was really 100% preventable. But again, convenience over security, that's a no-no.
Yeah, absolutely. So, 13, what should you do if you think your identity or accounts have been compromised? Sit in a corner and cry, not on there, but monitor your email, and which is, I guess, kind of the, kind of the Equifax approach, which is just monitor everything and, kind of wait and see if you've been hit. B, respond to the warning email you have received, which, they always tell you do not respond because that's all the information they're going to give you. Or C, subscribe to LifeLock or WebWatcher or any other such service. I think that even LifeLock or WebWatcher, they've been proven that, they can alert you, but at the same time, you will probably be just as safe monitoring your own accounts, which you should do anyways, just like your
Yes.
banking statements.
Yes. Yeah, the onus goes on the owner, the consumer. Monitor your own statements there. You'll catch it and react much faster than even a paid service.
Absolutely. And by the way, LifeLock, one of the longest running jokes out there. And the LifeLock service, they warning people, I guess, is more than what a lot of people do. But I recall when LifeLock CEO put his real social security number up in a commercial, and to this day, it's still one of the most fraudulently used social security numbers out there in the world. His credit has just taken such a hit. So
Yeah.
there you go. Even if you've been compromised and you have something like that, regular monitor definitely helps. 14, the best defense against ransomware is being proactive when you back up your data regularly. I'm going to say that one.
Ding,
The other
ding.
ones, cybersecurity insurance, we talked about those, and update all your devices to the latest security. Very important that you do that. Scott, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you have Zoom installed on your computer, but Zoom just
Yeah.
had an update. And right there, nestled in the middle, they said cybersecurity improvements. I was like,
Yeah.
good. You're all over the news because of your cybersecurity. So it's
Yeah,
good.
and I actually updated it right before joining this
Yeah.
video.
Yeah, and actually, and I do want to bring this up. We'll get back to the quiz in just a second. We might not get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, if we don't get to all the questions, we'll have, again, a link in the show notes. You can check it out yourself. And hey, these are all really fun, and we definitely like talking about them. But I did want to get the idea of Zoom bombing, which I guess is what some people are calling it, which is the idea of think of it like photo bombing, which you jump in the background of a photo. But in Zoom bombing, you quite literally uninvitedly come into a Zoom call, let's say between myself and Scott, and hey, you're just not supposed to be there. And I guess this is happening, isn't it?
Yeah, it's happening. And it's happening far too often, and that's part of the problem. So I did a nice interview there on Pix 11 that you have on the screen there out in New York, and
Hmm.
they're sharing it across the nation there. And I just kind of go through some basic tips, and I'll kind of, if it's okay, I'll rattle through some of them. So anybody that's using Zoom, make sure that you, number one, use a password to protect your meeting. Most meetings that people use, if it's a PMI, your personal meeting ID,
Hmm.
it's really easy through Zoom to launch it. But if you don't have a password, it's also really easy to scour the internet and find people that have posted that information. There's a lot of churches that post the PMI that's just basically your, the Zoom attached to your meeting ID, the 10-digit number. Once they have that, they could join. They just look at what's the service time is for the sermon that's going on, and they could Zoom bomb your meeting there. But if you have a password, you can prevent it. Also, utilizing these waiting rooms, you can actually kind of vet people. They have to go first into a waiting room.
And then be
You make
pulled
sure
in.
who they are
Yeah.
exactly before you approve them. That's important. Don't let people join the meeting before the host starts. If I was to join this before you were on, that would be a no-no. You should set that selection on there. Once the meeting starts and all your participants here, simply click the lock button. Real easy to do, and it keeps it secure. A few other basic things they that I think are good to do is the sharing. They have a screen watermarks you could put on there, especially if it's within an organization, within your company. You want everybody to know who's using what. Um, the recording capability, you want to make sure that you disable people from recording things. You got to ask yourself, do you need to allow somebody to screen share? Do you want them to do that? If you don't know and it's a big meeting, you got hundreds of people on, which happens, do you
Yeah.
want them suddenly sharing their screen and showing you something that's compromising or something that you shouldn't see, so on and so forth there. Um, End-to-end encryption, that's a big debate right now because Zoom touts that it is truly using end-to-end encryption. Not exactly. So there's some argument there, and in fact, I think the FBI even slapped them with some problems recently, and that's right now going through the legal systems. Are they being truthful? Is it truly end to end encryption? So they're going to be scampering to make security patches. So if you are using the Zoom platform, and I think to your point, make sure you regularly update and use the latest and greatest, and just use some of those particular tips there. And don't put the link out there for everybody in the world to see. It's easy enough to compromise email and steal links. And then there's also software out there that can automatically attempt to try to hack into Zoom accounts as well, such as this or when I host them. So you have to be careful. Use that password, and that way you can prevent the bots and other hackers from getting in.
Yeah, and especially if they're for, let's say, classes, and things like
Yep.
that for teachers and students that people are supposed to, kind of come in. I just send, although after hearing these warnings, I should probably start implementing some of these. But I just send them to the guests that come on the show here. The average audience member is not supposed to be in the Zoom call. I gotta say though that. One of the things that Zoom was recently caught for, and we'll probably wrap it up with this comment, is that they were sending information to Facebook. And
That's true.
Scott, and I just want your reaction to this because it feels like Zoom as a service really just kind of exploded in user base ever since COVID-19, of course, but I'd say over the past couple of months, they really capitalized on this idea of something simple, easy, intuitive, that Skype just wasn't. And I gotta say, it feels like they were kind of overpromising. Like they never mentioned that they were using a Facebook backend, although they did have the login with Facebook option, which is what it means. I feel like they were overpromising end-to-end encryption, things like that, and they were small enough that they could fly under the radar. But now that they're like the go-to meeting software, it feels like the spotlight's on them, and everyone's like, "Hey, wait a minute."
Yeah, and I think they are the go-to platform for video conferencing above everybody else. It's because they're easy to use. It is fairly user-friendly. I've been very successful. I've hosted meetings with up to 100 people,
Wow.
and it really does work. They do a good job at it. Um, they also are huge now. To your point, they grew rapidly. They're now valuated market cap of about $40 billion. They're actually worth more technically market capitalization than all four of the major airlines out there.
Yeah.
scary, but that's because of this pandemic, and look what happened. So they got to beef up their security, bottom line.
They do. And I got to say that we're flat out of time. We did not get to the rest of the the rest of the questions. There's about 10 more that we didn't get to. And ladies and gentlemen, hey, definitely encourage you to check that out, which you can find either through the link or, hey, your book, Cybersecurity is Everybody's Business. You can find it there as well. Scott, until next time, thank you so much for joining us here on Computer America. We'll see you at the end of the month, and make sure everything is still going. As long as society has not collapsed, you'll be here. So thank you, Scott.
Excellent. Thank you again. Stay safe and stay healthy, everyone.
Absolutely, everyone. And hey, we'll be back tomorrow with the one, the only Mr. Michael Cermak. Everyone, have a great one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.